A pleasant day, everyone. So, as of this moment, we're gonna talk about macroeconomics. So, what does really macroeconomics means? Macroeconomics is concerned about the phenomena that affects the entire economy, involving inflation, unemployment, price levels, economic growth, and decline. So, there are 7 principles of macroeconomics. The first one is Introduction of Economics. So, it focuses on the exchange of goods. The next one is Macroeconomics, Gross Domestic Product, inflation, and unemployment. So, it talks about the total output of the economy. The third one is aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Aggregate demand and aggregate supply talks about the total amount of goods and supply. The unit 4 is Unit 4 talks about aggregate equilibrium and economic growth. So, equilibrium is the point where aggregate supply equates aggregate demand. So, Unit 5 talks about the money, banking, and monetary policy. So, it includes the method of government agencies. Unit 6 talks about the fiscal policy and the relationship between inflation and unemployment. The 7th unit of the principles of macroeconomics is International Trade and Finance. So, it examines the macroeconomics effects of the international flow. It examines the macroeconomics effect of international flows of financial gap. So at this time, we already know the 7 units of the principles of macroeconomics. But as of this moment, I will just gonna elaborate the 2nd unit of macroeconomics. The unit 2 all about macroeconomics growth, domestic product, inflation, and unemployment. It talks about the gross domestic product, or what we call as GDP. GDP is the total monetary or market value of all the finished goods and services being produced. So, it is used to estimate the size of an economy and growth rate. GDP reflects the quantity of goods and services being produced in a certain economy. GDP growth rate is accelerating. It is a signal that economy is overheating, as we can see it in the law of demand and supply. If the law of demand says higher price, buyers will demand less of an economy goods. Then, law of supply says higher price, seller will supply more economic goods. So, there are ways of calculating GDP. There are 3 methods, and these 3 methods will use through these 3 approaches: the expenditure approach, output approach, and the last is income approach. So, GDP is the total monetary or market value of all the finished goods and services being produced in a certain country. So, GDP also is used to estimate the size of an economy and growth rate because it reflects the quantity of goods and services being produced. That could be all. Thank you and have a nice day.